Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Please just say a hi because, yeah, good morning from Chicago, Sheila. I can see that. Yes, everybody can hear me. Well, what a midsummer night's dream to be here because I know people from all over the world, and what a privilege to talk to you. I feel truly blessed. Thank you for joining my talk about precognitive dreams. I'm Theresa Cheung. I'm the author of too many books to mention now. It's a bit of an addiction, but I am published by Llewellyn. I'm honored to say my first title with them is The Dream Cure, which is a co-edition with HarperCollins. But the book that is Llewellyn and only Llewellyn is Dreaming of Your Future. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about right now. Let's jump straight in. Precognition. What is it? Put simply, it's the ability to know the future or sense the future ahead of time. And whenever I do talks and media, and I do a lot of talks and media about precognition, I can tell you, I'm typically asked three questions. The first one, should you know your future? The second one, is it possible to sense the future? And thirdly, well, if it is possible, how on earth do you do it? And I hope this short talk will give you clarity on these 3 points and encourage you to find out more. Well, first of all, should you know the future? Because aren't we always told in the mindfulness movement that the power is now, and that the secret to a happy life and the way to find fulfillment is to savor the now, to live fully in the now? Yes, of course, there's eternal truth in that. But it is possible to live in the eternal now, but to also to be mindful of the future you are currently attracting with your thoughts and feelings. And I'm going to reference an iconic work here I'm sure all of you are familiar with, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. How on earth did this young psychiatrist, who was subjected to the most unspeakable cruelty in Auschwitz, he was a Holocaust survivor, how did he survive that ordeal? And he writes in that book, one of the ways he survived that ordeal, how he transformed pain into purpose, was to have hope for a better future. And that is why precognition is important, and it is something that you should do. You should always live in your presence with an awareness of the future that you are currently attracting. If that future you think you're sensing, however, is dire and unpleasant, that's a quandary, isn't it? Because should we know if negative things are hurtling our way? Isn't it better to not know? And I'm going to say, well, yes, there are some things in the world that are outside our control, but there are many things that are within our control, specifically in our personal life. And if the future you are sensing feels negative, if you wake up with a dream or have a hunch that feels negative, this is a priceless opportunity to course correct that future. Sensing that future is a gift. I'll give you an example that I always give. If I hold my Dreaming of the Future book here and tell you my intention is to drop it on the floor, the future of that book is on the floor. But at the last minute, I have free will. I can exercise the power of choice, and I can choose to catch that book, therefore changing the future, the potential future it was attracting. So yes, you should learn how to sense the future, especially within your personal life. Secondly, is it possible to sense the future? Surely we're always told from school onward, we have past, we have present, we have future. Now, I'm not a scientist, I don't claim to be, but I do have the privilege of working with scientists and neuroscientists, some of them who are leading the world in science of consciousness. And all the evidence is beginning to show that past, present, and future are happening all the time, and that linear time, past, present, future, is a kind of an illusion to help our poor little minds cope with living in this on this earth. It is certainly possible to sense the future. It's also, and this is what I love about working with scientists and psychologists, did you know that when you sense the future or think about your future, your brain, I think it's about 12 areas of your brain light up. In contrast, when you think about the present and the past, about half those areas, about 5 or 6 areas of your brain light up. So really, thinking about the future is really good news for your brain. Think of it as a brain gym. It's very good for keeping your brain nimble. And actually, more research shows that your brain is a predictive machine. The flow of your brain, the natural state of your brain, studies show, is to sense the future, to seek meanings and patterns. So actually, when you are flexing your precognitive muscle, and I'll show you how in a minute, you are actually offering healing to your brain. Your brain loves you for it because you're doing what it's designed to do. It's such a shame that we're conditioned often to think that thinking about the future is imagination, nonsense, and fancy. And we block that with all our reason and logic. But actually, your brain is very, very grateful when you just daydream a bit and you imagine a better future. So it's good news for your brain. Now, the third and most important point. I've covered, should you know the future? Yes, you should. Hoping in a better future gives us motivation. It encourages us to take positive action in the present. It does not contradict the mindfulness movement. Secondly, is sensing the future possible? Yes, it is. And not only is it possible, studies show that when people are wired up with brain scans and asked to predict future events, more often than not, above chance, they predict the future accurately, or future images that are put on their screen. It is possible, and it's also good for your brain. But how do you do it? That's the big question. Most people, actually, the theory kind of is a bit mind-numbing. If you're here, you're at this wonderful, wonderful festival celebrating all things mind, body, and soul. I'm sensing that you already believe it's possible to be highly intuitive and to sense the future. And that's good news, because when you sense the future, you can make better decisions about your future. So how do you do it? Well, there are two ways. And I cover all this in much more depth in Dreaming of Your Future. And I reference all the science and the psychology if you want to dig much deeper. How do you do it? Two ways. First way is you sense the future when you're awake. It is possible to sense the future when you're awake, and that's called presentiment. And I wrote a book a few years ago, actually, with the world's leading expert in presentiment, which is sensing the future when you're awake, Dr. Julia Mossbridge. That was called the Premonition Code. And she has been involved in studies which show that when you're awake, your intuition typically speaks through your heart rate and through your gut. In other words, body wisdom. All you intuitives and sensitives out there know that already, but science is starting to prove it to be a reality. Now, the problem with presentiment is it's rare. And the reason it's rare is because you're awake. And the material world, which is rational and linear and logical, and also your own self-doubt, often get in the way of you picking up the signals from your body. That is why I think about 97 or 98% of accurate precognitions, because a precognition is only a precognition when it's proven to be true, happen in the dream state. Of course it happens when you're dreaming at night, because think about it, when you fall asleep, your body falls asleep, but the intuitive and creative and empathetic centers of your brain stay awake and start getting busy dreaming. And in the dream state, which is a different state of consciousness, the only things missing are logic and reason. And typically when you're awake, when you have an intuitive hunch, what happens is logic and reason step in and block it from your conscious awareness. Or if it does bubble to the surface, you start second guessing yourself and say, nonsense, no, that can't be true. But in the dream state, you suspend that disbelief and anything is possible. So I'm going to talk now mainly about precognitions in the dream state and how you can learn to understand them and work with them. I'll also touch a bit on waking precognition, presentiment, because that's important too. You are a dreaming being, however, and it's in the dream state that most precognitions happen. So let me give you a kind of a mini 6-point plan, because I want something practical for you to have to take away after this talk. There's a lot of talk often and theory, and I want you to have something really practical, because that's the only way. Direct personal experience is often the only way for you to prove to yourself that you're a precognitive being. The 6 or 7 points I'm going to give, it depends on the time because I'm very conscious of the clock here, that I'm going to give. I'd like you, if you can, to write them down or watch this on replay and practice them for at least 20 or so days, please, because you do need to do them daily and repetitively. That's the only way for them to have a result. Okay, the first rule of being a precognitive being, and I'm sure you're going to guess what this is, it's the first and second rule of being a precognitive being, is to get into the habit of regular dream recall. You need to start waking up with gratitude and dreams on your mind. That's a wonderful way to wake up anyway. It shows that your brain's on fire. It really does. And that overnight, your intuition is in overdrive. Please, if you've fallen out of the habit of regular dream recall because the material world has got so stressful, and I hear you, I go through periods of poor dream recall too. It happens to us all, but you can get it back. And in Dreaming of Your Future, I give you some very simple tips to kickstart that dream recall. It's really important because every time you recall a dream, you remind yourself that you are more than your body. You are an intuitive, precognitive being. And sorry, I do go on a tangent sometimes. Intuition and precognition, in my humble opinion, are just the same thing. They're just different words. I believe precognition is an umbrella term, and certainly in scientific circles, it is considered an umbrella term for all psychic abilities. So first of all, get into the habit of dream recall. And what I'd love you to do, without even trying to decode your dreams or look for anything, for the next 20 or so days, write down in the morning what dreams are on your mind. If there are no dreams on your mind, that sometimes happens, write down how you feel on waking, because the language of dreams is the language of emotion and symbols. And typically when you wake up, you feel a certain way. It's slightly different each morning. And that is because of a vision you've had in a dream. If you think you haven't dreamt, you have. Brain scans show you dream at least 5 or 6 times each night. You've just forgotten how to recall them. You've got into that habit because of conditioning, but you can easily restart it. And I actually predict, being a precognitive being, just like all of you are, that tomorrow morning, because you focused on your dreams right now with me, you're going to wake up with some dreams on your mind. I do predict that. And I'd love you to let me know if you do. Then, when you've written down about 20 dreams over the next couple of weeks, you need to start understanding how to decode those dreams. The language of dream work, and I've devoted my lifetime to interpreting dreams. I've written a massive dream encyclopedia with HarperCollins, the 20,000 Dreams, now the Dream Dictionary, working with Llewellyn on dreams. Obviously, that's what I'm most known about. I've earned the title the Queen of Dreams over these years. I do media call-ins where people call me. And the language of dreams is not always literal. In very rare cases, it can be literal. But in the overwhelming majority of cases, it's symbolic. And if you don't know how to understand your dreams, just think back to your literature classes at school when your teacher asked you to interpret a poem. On first reading, that poem just probably didn't make sense at all. It seemed bizarre, nonsensical. But that's exactly how dreams speak to you. Remember, they speak in a different language because they come from a different state of consciousness. Just as if you went to another country, you'd need to learn the language to understand the culture. You need to do the same in the dream state. You're in a different state of consciousness. And in that state of consciousness, it is the language of emotion and symbols. So you need to start learning how to think symbolically. And there are plenty of resources online through Llewellyn, through my books, to help you do that. But your personal symbolism is key. And you need to just write them down. So that's the first step. For at least 2 to 3 weeks, get into the habit of falling truly, madly, deeply in love with your dreams again. Please, they are your best friend and they never lie to you, as best friends shouldn't lie to you. The second thing is, after those 2 to 3 weeks, to do the most important and powerful tool of dream work, hindsight. Too many people just look at their one dream they've had that stand out, then obsess about trying to understand it, and they're very current in it. But hindsight, that's why you're encouraged to keep a dream journal. Hindsight is so powerful. You need to look back 2 to 3 weeks to see how your dreams have in their symbolic way, been predicting what you're currently experiencing. And I'm telling you, they will be foreshadowing something that's going on in your life, whether that's a location, a person you're in touch with, more often than not, a mindset or an emotional response you've had. But the only way to find out about that is to read the book of your life, the greatest book you'll ever write, your own dream journal. When you do that, circle it and say, I can see how my dreaming mind was predicting this, that, and the other. More often than not, it will predict something trivial. And you may think, well, what's the point of that? That's a waste of time. Why did I dream that my teacher or my colleague was going to wear purple that day? And they did. It's not trivial. It's just your dreaming mind warming up for better things to come and telling you, look, this is my power. I'm giving you a snapshot of what's possible. Also, something about that meeting or that sense or that person or that color is going to be significant for your future, or the future you're currently attracting with your mindset. Put a big circle around it and brainstorm it, because that is your precognitive hit. You need precognitive hits. One thing I've learned with working with scientists is no good saying after the event. You need to have proof. You need it time-stamped and dated, because you actually are in the process with your dream journal of proving to yourself that you can dream your future. You need to prove yourself that you can do it. And I'm telling you, 2 to 3 weeks is often all it takes for at least one hit to come. And once you've had one precognitive dreaming hit, more will follow. I tell you, that's how the dreaming mind works. It's just testing you, so give it time. Now, the third one, this is an interesting one, again, based on scientific research. When you're doing your dream work, smile, even if you don't feel like it, and pour unconditional love onto your dream images and stories that you've written out. When you think about your dreams in the past, you typically think about them in the third person. It's like you're watching a movie, right? Studies show that when people think about themselves in the third person, like you're a character in a movie, in contrast to when you're thinking about yourself in the first person, like you're in the thick of the action, somehow it unlocks more compassion and empathy, and crucially, psychic ability. Studies show that thinking about yourself in the third person can unlock areas in your brain connected with intuition. Isn't that fascinating? And this also links into future self-work. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that. Studies have shown that when you think about yourself in the future, what do? You tend to think about yourself in the third person, just like in a dream. You see it happening behind your eyes, or you describe it to yourself if you're not good with mental imagery. It's this third person key again. So whenever, please, after this, whenever you think about yourself in the future, you're mentally rehearsing something, you're visualizing yourself in the future, succeeding, feeling worthy, whatever it is, being healthy, please do so with lashings of unconditional love, because it is really going to help unlock your precognitive powers. And just a little aside, if you do future self work, always think that your future self, you know what I said about past, present, and future happening all at once, your future self is here right now. It is watching you, and it also watches you in the dream state. Studies show that when people think they are being observed, they automatically improve their importance. Well, I'm telling you, you are being watched all the time by your dreaming mind and your future self. Please impress yourself every day and every night. All right. And one way you can actually encourage yourself to feel unconditional love for your future self and your dreams is to grab your phones and record a 1-sentence message to your tomorrow self. Today, for your tomorrow self, say something like, "You're amazing. I'm so proud of what you've achieved so far. Today's going to be a great day. I don't care what it is." Something unconditionally loving for your future self. And then the next morning, listen to that message from your past self. It's incredibly empowering. You may think that sounds nonsense and it's too simple. It works. And again, research shows it works. It has been trialed, this recording messages for your tomorrow self in prisons and in hospitals and in care centers. And after 2 to 3 weeks, again, that magical 2 to 3 weeks of recording a message for your future self each day, there was a big boost in self-esteem. Why is self-esteem important? It is vital for precognitive beings, because without belief in your own precognitive abilities, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. Self-belief is the holy grail for most things in life. And for whatever reason, we've all had traumatic experiences or whatever. Some of us, it's a longer journey than others, but you do need to move from self-awareness. A lot of us are in that self-aware state, especially when we're new to spiritual growth. We fall in love with understanding ourselves, but you've got to move to the next step on the ladder, which is self-care, really caring for yourself. That's why I talked about these unconditionally loving exercises. And I'm telling you, dream work is an act of sacred unconditional love for yourself, as is future self-work. But the third step you've got to move to is self-belief. Studies show that people who believe they are psychic or precognitive tend to sense the future better than those who don't. A simple affirmation like, I am a precognitive being. I see clearly the loving future I am attracting in my dreams and in my waking hunches. Said on waking and said on sleeping, those two magical times in your day where your brain is very malleable and impressionable, could really kickstart that self-belief. But don't worry, we all take steps forward and take steps back on that. And that's just part of personal growth, because often we learn the most about ourselves, don't we, when things are challenging? Not so much when it's successful. It's only outside your comfort zone that growth happens. And that's why your dreaming mind, in its infinite wisdom, loves to send you the odd nightmare or two. Nightmare, as my fellow Llewellyn co-author and dear friend, I'm honored to say, Dr. Claire Johnson, often says, nightmares are transformative gifts. If you have one of those, you're going to remember it, because your dreaming mind may have sent you the message with butterflies and fairies before and you've not picked up on it. But if you have a nightmare, you are going to remember it. Your dreaming mind is using tough love. Really brainstorm on the meaning of that, because something about your current mindset is attracting a future your way that isn't in your best interests. And a nightmare is alerting you to that and saying, course correct, change that mindset, change that vibration, change that energy, attract something else your way. Just a couple more steps, and I'm conscious of time. Live your dream. This is a really helpful tip, and I found this helpful, especially when my dream recall is a little poor. If I have had a dream a few nights ago and a symbol stood out, a safe symbol, because dreams are bonkers, nothing dangerous, please. If it's a safe symbol like a rose or a pond or something safe, seek out the material object in your waking life. Seek it out during the day, and then just have a moment. Hold it in your hand if it's something you can hold, like a flower that you dreamt of or something. If you can't, physically do that, seek out the image online and just have a moment to connect your dreaming mind with your waking mind. Make it sacred and say to your dreaming mind, I hear you. I'm connecting with the dream. I am consciously creating déjà rêve. That's a dream remembered. And we've all had those déjà rêve moments, haven't we, where a dream happened and then a few days later it played out. That is precognition on fire. And you want every day to be a déjà rêve, where you've had a heads up dream about the day ahead, and it can help you make a better decision. Or if it's a really anxiety-fulfilled dream, you've kind of cathartically released that stress, so you don't have to. You've had a dress rehearsal. You don't have to. In your waking life, you can just shine because you've got rid of all the anxiety and trauma in the dream state. All right, but make sure that the symbol you choose to meet when you're awake that you dreamt about is a safe one, please. Of course, I'm going to touch a bit on presentiment, waking intuition, which is precognition by another name. Please, before you're going to make a decision, please just check in with your gut and your heart. The rest of your body is precognitive too, but the gut and the heart, they're the real indicators. Just listen to what they say. And one way I'll just finish that I'd love everyone to do for the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'm sure you're doing it already because you're probably much more advanced on your spiritual journey than I truly believe that you all are, is a couple of minutes meditation each day. Again, I will reference the studies here to close this talk. 2 to 3 weeks of regular meditation, which is simply going in that observational stance I mentioned earlier, observing your thoughts and feelings, but not identifying with them. 2 to 3 weeks of doing that for just 5 minutes. That's all you need. 2 to 3 weeks of that will, for people who say they've never had a déjà rêve or a dream coming true or an intuitive hunch that played out, people who say that, who fall into the category of I've never had a psychic experience, people who say that, who, by the way, study is showing are actually the minority. The majority of people have had psychic experiences. They just don't understand what they are and they second guess them. But for people who say they've never had a psychic experience, meditation is the key. And it's not complicated. It's very simple. Every time you decode a dream or you think about your future self with love, you are entering a meditative state, right? Do that for 2 to 3 weeks. And before you know it, you will be sensing ahead of time what is in your best interests and the future that is hurtling your way. Please believe, everyone, in the beautiful future of your dreams. And I'll just close by quoting Edgar Cayce. The future is always looking back at you. And I'm going to add in a bit of Taylor Swift here and tugging at you with invisible strings in your dreams. The future is always looking at you, back at you in your dreams. I'm so honored to have talked to you today. It's a dream come true for me to be here. I kind of sensed it ahead of time, but it's finally happened. I'm so grateful. Do check out Dreaming of Your Future, published by Llewellyn. And if you have any questions or you're not in a position to purchase the book, I completely understand. Books are expensive. That's why I have a White Shores podcast, totally free, where I interview some of the world's leading dream researchers, etc. I also have an email, angeltalk710@aol.com, which is in Dreaming of Your Future book. Please, I aim to reply to anyone. The greatest joy being in the position now to have written so many books in this area and devoted my life. I was born into a family of spiritualists and psychics. I studied theology and religion at Cambridge University. Since then, I have literally probably over 100 books now. So I'm a serial writer. One of the greatest joys now at this age and stage in my life is the personal contact with my readers and listeners. I love hearing from you, your dream stories, your questions, and often you teach me much more than I believe that I'm sharing with you. So thank you from my heart and soul for being amazing you. And remember, again, research shows we all have an innate sixth sense. Our brains are predictive time-traveling machines. We just need to wake up right now to that reality. Lots of love from the UK.